Dear friends, let me start from a very simple statement. In any large country, a federal system of governance would be much more efficient than a unitary system of government for obvious reasons. I don't want to dilate on that. I would say all the more so in a multicultural country like India, where you can identify very distinct subnationalities with their history, culture, and aspirations. In such a context, I think it is very important that the federal system accommodate regional aspirations and the choice of development. Let's take the experience of Indian states. Already Ram has referred to Kerala. We have focused upon social sector development and just paid rich dividends. On the other extreme would be, say, a state like Gujarat, whose focus has been industrial development, with the expectation that growth will trickle down. In between, you have Tamil Nadu, where you started with industrialization, then there is very serious state intervention to redistribute, to public provision of welfare and social services, so that improvement in standard of living do take place. Then you have a whole host of Bimaru states who does not belong to any of this. Now, I'm not going to make a judgment which is better. My only point is that that's something that has to be politically decided choice made by the people in the region. And our federal system must accommodate these aspirations. Give space for set of fiscal autonomy to choose the paradigm of development. Now, the simple point I want to make is the present federal system doesn't. I will come back to this point towards the end of my lecture. Now everybody accepts that India is a quasi-federation. The legislative, administrative, and financial powers are concentrated at the center. Now, this is very true for financial relations. You'll find the power for financial mobilization is concentrated in the center, while functional responsibilities are in the domain of the states. This basic asymmetry, states which account for about 60% of the development expenditure, they control only about 40% of the revenues. This basic asymmetry therefore demands devolution of funds from center to states. The Constitution understood this, Constitution makers. Therefore, you have the institution of Finance Commission appointed every 5 years, which determines one, what percentage of central taxes, excise duty, then direct taxes, what percentage of that should be devolved to states, or the divisible pool, a term which is frequently used. Two, the Finance Commission also determines the norms by which This divisible pool is to be distributed between the states. Now, every finance commission, now 15 finance commissions have already submitted the reports, and 16th one has just been appointed. Every finance commission rouses a lot of heated debate and so on. Despite these differences, there's a general agreement that this is norm-based statutory devolution and cannot be easily changed by the center. Therefore, this is an acceptable way of devolving funds. If you take just revenue expenditure, revenue receipts, devolution by finance commission would come to something like 70% of the total devolution. But if you add, say, loans and so on, then it would be much lower, 40%. Then, when we started the planning, another route for devolution emerged, the Planning Commission. Planning Commission was responsible to frame the national plan, dovetail state plans with the national plan, and also determine what plan assistance, plan aid has to be given to each state. That was also based upon the formula. It is known as Gadgil formula. Professor Gadgil proposed it. And also there was a lot of discussion between the states and the Planning Commission, which was clinched finally in the NDC, National Development Council. So it was a deliberate process that is involved. Now, third route is on the basis of an obscure Article 282 of the Constitution, which classifies miscellaneous financial powers, meant to be used very sparingly under special circumstances, but it was frequently made recourse to by the center. This is discretionary transfer, arbitrarily determined by the center. This was a relatively small share. Okay, this was the situation. Then in 1991, the whole paradigm of Indian development changed. Obviously, the finance also was not an exception. The composition of devolution to states dramatically changed. The biggest change was the Planning Commission was dismantled. If you take the Planning Commission, not only revenue support for the plans, but they determine the loans for the plan. They accounted for some 30% of the total devolution. So that now Planning Commission was no more. It was a discretionary decision of the center which state would get what from this. Earlier it was not so. Now, mind you, there's a slight exaggeration in this, in the sense plan aid was mostly market borrowings permitted by Planning Commission. Now, under the new regime, states are now given loans by the center, but they take it from the market on the basis of FRBM Act, which says they can borrow up to 3% of the GSDP. But still, nevertheless, even after removing the loan, still it was an addition to the revenue pool which the center could discretion give to states they like and don't give it to states that they don't like. Now, then comes the 14th Finance Commission. Already dismantling of the Planning Commission was in the cards. Everybody knew Planning Commission era was going to end. So 14th Finance Commission under Y.V. Reddy took a decision. Till then, finance commissions were concerned only with the non-planned revenue account. Indian budgets, unlike the budgets of other countries, has this distinction between planned and non-planned. Other countries have only revenue and capital account. Indian budgets have revenue, planned and non-planned. So finance commissions chose to accept that planned finance was to be done by the planning commission. We will confine ourselves to non-planned revenue account. But 14th Finance Commission realized that planning era was ending, and therefore they took into account the entire revenue account of this center. So then they said, okay, there is so much more revenue with the center. Therefore, we are raising the divisible pool, share of the tax of center, which was to be shared with the states from 32% to 42%. That was a major step. So they tried to squeeze away, take away some of the additional revenue that the center was going to get for discretionary distribution. But Modi would not have anything of that. See, while 14th Finance Commission was operation, deliberating, preparing the report, he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, and he was the most vociferous voice, demanding 50% of the revenue, the central taxes be made into divisible pool. Of course, all of the states used to demand that, but was very vociferous about it. The elections came, he was elected to, chosen as the Prime Minister. Just then, the Finance Commission was about to submit the report. Now it is very well known. Ex-CEO of Niti Aayog, Mr. B.V.R. Subramanian, in a seminar by Center for Social Economic Progress, narrated how Modi met Y.V. Reddy in person, in his presence, and tried to say, no, you should not increase to 42%, make it to 32%. Y.V. Reddy said, you have no business in this, it's our business. He didn't budge an inch. And therefore, the whole thing came to naught. Of course, Subramanian did not interact. Al Jazeera reported this seminar. And thus we all came to know about this. Reddy had not made any remark. He kept silent. That's a decorum of the commission. So what do Modi do? Now, Modi suddenly found the budget has already been prepared, drafted, thinking only 32% would have to be given. See? So just the previous 2 days before the budget presentation, the figures have to be revised. That's a great point. That's not evidence, but that was the discussion. General. And Modi is a past master in improvisation. So he came to the parliament and he joked. Some states would not have treasuries big enough to keep all this money. And all BJP benches clapped and so on and so forth. So he made a great show of it, giving away 42%. Then what did the Indian government do? They began a campaign to systematically reduce real divisible pool from 42% to 32%. How did they do it? 2 methods. One, Constitution says net proceeds of the taxes. Net of what? Gross taxes minus collection charges. And that's what Ram Jesus gave me Ram Kumar's paper on that. And they arbitrarily raised that. That's one. Secondly, Constitution says these taxes will have to be shared, but cesses and surcharges don't need to be shared by states. Because cess is for a specific purpose. How can you share it? That is the logic of it. So, over 3-4 years, systematically cess and surcharges were raised. So much so, in 2011-12, cess and surcharges were 9.5% of the total tax revenue. By 2021, it reached 20.2%. And now in 23-24 budget, it is 14.4%, but still much higher. I'll give some. Now, many people say this is because of the GST compensation, which is very substantial. No, this figure is netted from the GST compensation. So excluding GST compensation, this is what has happened. I'll just give 3 illustrative examples how it was done. In 2017-18 budget, the income tax rate of slab up to rupees 5 was reduced from 10% to 5%. Then to compensate for that, a surcharge on taxes on incomes above 50 lakh was imposed. Now instead of surcharge, it was a slab rate change. Changed to about 42%. So a concession was given at the expense of the state. Then you impose a surcharge to compensate for that, which doesn't have to be shared with the state. Next year, 2018-19, the duty on petroleum, excise duty, was reduced by 9 rupees. So you will think central government is losing the revenue. But then, by an equal amount, road cess was raised. So you give a concession at the expense of the state. Once again, you raise the cess. 2021-22, there was a lot of protest against price rise and so on. So some duty has to be reduced. Then what did you do? You reduced again 9 rupees from the cess, but did not touch the cess. So if you add all this together, the loss of states between 2015-16 and 2018-19, due to the shrinking of the divisible pool, was a shocking 5.26 lakh crore rupees. Not 1 or 2. Huge. And if we calculate real devolution, then it would be 32%. So Modi achieved what he had set out to do. But he didn't stop there. He did something that was never done in the history of Finance Commission. 15th Finance Commission was appointed. One of the terms of reference was that to review the substantial enhancement of tax devolution made by 14th Finance Commission. That's never done. Specifically, to ask to revise, look into it. And everybody thought that something was going to happen. Luckily for the states, COVID didn't intervene. COVID, with the shrinkage of the national income and so on, was the least appropriate moment to look at reducing the expenditure or reducing the revenues of the states. And therefore, they just kept it to 42%, reduced it 1% because Jammu and Kashmir became a union territory by then. Otherwise, they left it undisturbed. So now we will have to. So now, what is the sum up? If I'm planning a mission goes, it increases the non-divisible pool available for the center. Attempt of Finance Commission, 14th Finance Commission, to increase the divisible pool is thwarted. Therefore, center has much more resources at its disposal for discretionary spending. And therefore, new slogan of double engine growth. That was not in vogue anywhere before the history of financial history. Of course, central governments had some leeway, discretionary power. They would help the states with the political, but it was never made into a slogan here. So, double engine growth. There cannot be more obnoxious form of political favoritism in the devolution of funds to state government. And became very normal for the Prime Minister before every election to visit the states and make declare packages or on such other occasions. The budget of 24-25 has taken the slogan to a new toxic level by allocating special funds for two states, Bihar and Andhra Pradesh. There are a lot of debates about how this much money is going to come, but 45,000 crores of rupees, a big thing. And finance minister, has no qualms, no shame to go on dilating the budget speech, a paragraph each for this. So, very rightly, this budget has been characterized as a save the chair exercise by the opposition. Now, this open political discrimination has opened a new front in the center-state confrontation. That confrontation is going to come in the 16th Finance Commission. How is it going to be? One, a point has been made that cesses and surcharges will be made in the divisible pool. Net proceeds of tax limits will have to be put, or much more simpler, much more simpler way, raise the share of taxes for the state to 50%. Now this is going to be an issue because center is flaunting that they have resources left for discriminatory transfers, arbitrary transfers. And therefore this minimum acceptable thing that there must be certain objective criteria by which resources are transferred. Secondly, there is going to be a big debate regarding interstate distribution between the states. That has always been there, Each state has its interests. But this time, this is going to be a serious confrontation issue. Why? For two reasons. See, any system of devolution will have to have a principle of equity. We are all one nation. Therefore, every citizen in the country has an inherent right to enjoy a basic minimum standard, basic facilities. And the Finance Commission is an instrument to ensure that. I will not debate that, never. But can you raise this redistribution to an unsustainable level? Unsustainable, I would say, a level which will affect the growth of the advanced economy from which redistribution is taking place. If you want the numbers, it would be something like this. For the money resources collected by center through tax from the states, what percentage comes back to the state? Maharashtra, it is only 10%, Karnataka 15, Haryana 18, Gujarat 28, Tamil Nadu 29, Telangana 43, Andhra 49, Kerala 57. At the other end, you have state which receive the double the amount of resources that is taken from those states. I will start with Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Assam, UP, Bihar. Bihar gets 7 times the resources that is collected from Bihar. This inequality has been widening, and former Finance Minister of Tamil Nadu has one who first opened this issue up. And the GST Council was his refrain. Now, if you have been transferring resources, but criticism of this transfer would be, it has not helped the states. Say, you take, I hope you follow this argument, average per capita income of India, national average per capita income. This, say, weighted redistribution in favor of backward states is to enable that to catch up with the national average. But after 1991, what has happened? It's astounding. The development experience in India, I'll just give the numbers. Bihar, in 1991, per capita income was 56% of national average. Now, in 2021, is 29%. UP, it was 78%. Good. UP was catching up. And now, it is 42%. MP, Madhya Pradesh, slips from 83 to 71, Odisha to 81 to 71. Rajasthan is the only Bimari state where marginally improves from 75 to 79. Otherwise, all the backward states slips down in per capita income from the national average. What is happening in the advanced states? Haryana rises from 145% in 1991. Now it's 157% from the national average. Karnataka from 93% to 151%. Tamil Nadu from 92% below the national average in 1991 to 143%. Gujarat 119 to 142. Kerala 93 to 133. The regional inequality, never in the post-independence period, has been widening in this way. It's like a funnel here, widening away, which shows that redistribution alone is not going to bring about bring down regional inequality. It may harm the growth in the advanced states. It has to have some policies. But you must understand what's happening after 1991. What is the impact of this market paramountcy on the backward regions? They will be the victims of what in development economics is called backlash effect. It's okay, you go and build a big steel plant, huge investment in Bihar. Now, all the contractors will be from Maharashtra or Gujarat. All the contractors from Gujarat. all the equipments, this, that, everything would come outside. Technical hands would come from outside. So the multiplier impact of the investment in the steel plant will be felt outside the region. In the region, there's hardly any impact made on the economy. The market will just suck away the resources suspended the two advanced regions. It will get reflected, say, in the credit deposit ratio. It will get reflected in the trade. If you look at trade balance in mid-70s when I worked, very strange phenomenon. All the backward states, they had trade surplus. All the advanced states had trade deficit. It's something like this, if you want to understand this, the analogy of colonial India. Colonial India had a trade surplus. It was a side of a reflection of its prosperity. It is a drain that is taking place. So there are these economic forces. Now, how do you meet this? You cannot control market. That's outside the policy regime. So you have to choose to invest on non-tradables here. What is non-tradable? Education, healthcare, other social sectors. Despite these resource transfers, if you take the quality of life index for any of these states, they're the worst. So without these policy changes, this situation is going to worsen. And now, at this point, I want to revert back to the statement I made. That federal fiscal system must accommodate regional aspirations. The aspirations, policies there will have changed. So also take into account of the challenges that advanced states are making. I will state something of Kerala experience, take 10 minutes or so, and then show how this federal finance system, as it is evolving, has become a total hindrance to the regional development of Kerala. As you know, Kerala's development has been emphasizing redistribution. Redistribution through higher wages, redistribution through land reform, public action of people intervening. And also people's struggles for education, healthcare, etc. Every government, whatever be the government, they have been forced to spend more and more. And as a result, so many generations of people had a decent life with dignity. All right. But now, the children of these people who are now protected under social welfare and so on, they are educated, their aspirations are improved, they want decent jobs. Some job won't do. Kerala has the highest unemployment, but we have 3 million people from outside working in Kerala, migrant workers. With the educated, unemployed, the existing jobs don't meet their aspiration level. So you have to create new quality jobs. And for that, you need to have certain core sectors where Kerala can be competitive, focus on them. Knowledge industries, skill-based industries, and so on, and high-value added resource industries. For the investment to be attracted to Kerala, there are many barriers. One key barrier is Kerala's infrastructure deficit. Because of your focus on education, healthcare, and so on, investment, your public expenditure has been going into the sectors, And if you take the average capital expenditure of Kerala budget is nearly half the national state's average. Not just recent year, for a few decades. So you will find the cars and trains in Kerala will ply at half the average speed outside. You bring electricity, but you can wheel it in Kerala because you don't have any high tension transmission line above 240 or something. You have only port of Kochi, but loses out totally to, say, Thuthukudi and Mangalapuram, and so on and so forth. Your all industrial parks are of industrial estate vintage of the 70s. Now, this has to be overcome now, not sometime in the future. If we want to make this transition of a new development paradigm, of protecting the social welfare gains, at the same time generating quality jobs in Kerala, you have to overcome this infrastructure deficit immediately. So now this is the new regional development goal. Just like our regional development goal, which we chose very differently from rest of India to focus on social sectors. Now this is the objective. But requires money, financial resources. So what do state governments in India do? How much state government can borrow is limited by FRBM, 3% of your GSDP. Okay, that's limited. And Kerala borrows, and Kerala is a huge revenue deficit because unlike other states, all the teachers in Kerala is paid by the state government, whether in the private sector or not, in colleges and schools. And you have big network of hospitals which have. In fact, the number of teachers alone paid by the central state government is larger than the total employees in the state government. That's the kind of scale of this. And therefore, there won't be money there. So how do state address this situation? The simple way states address the situation of having the money and reaching the limit of borrowing is to have what is called annuity schemes. Okay, you want to build a big bridge, then you tell the contractor, we won't give you immediately, you have to borrow and construct it. We will give you in annual installments spread over the next 20 years. So while contracting, you take into account the interest on the money you borrow and you participate in the tender. This is called annuity schemes. These are used by all states, even central government. Now, we examine this data. When I work in the minister, stunning. The implicit interest rate was between 12% and 20%. Because there are only few contractors who can borrow hundreds of crores and compete. Therefore, there is no competition. Only one contractor comes or two contractors. They have an adjustment and they jack up the contract price. So we thought, okay, instead of going to individual contractors, why not set up an institution or company? Kerala Infrastructure Fund Board, which will borrow from the market and construct, and government pay it annuity. Annuity was defined in the law as 50% of the motor vehicle tax. So this new company can go to market and say, look, here is our future income flow from the government of Kerala. On that security, take the loan. It's an efficient company. So good rating. In fact, there was no need to go abroad to borrow. We went for masala board. So ED is after me for this masala board. So people ask me, why did you do that? just to demonstrate to the financial market, here is a player in the market that can borrow from international market, issue a bond and get the money. So it was done. Okay, about 50, 80,000 crores of infrastructure is being built. Only infrastructure, not a pie of this money can be used for revenue. It doesn't enter the government accounts at all. Then central government comes up. No. This is indirect borrowing by the state government. Therefore, it is borrowing by the state government. Therefore, we are going to trust first the FRBM Act. Therefore, this borrowing by KIFBI will be reduced from your normal borrowing. So instead of 3%, we will be allowed to borrow 2% only for coming how many years, I don't know. Yes. So that's become a big financial crisis. A sudden drop of 1% of borrowing makes a big problem in the state. While the central government off-budget borrowing is something like 5 lakh crores, it is not counted as part of public debt of the center. It does not enter into fiscal deficit. Take the high. It borrows. It's a hybrid. Annuity is something hybrid. But there are institutions like that. We can do, you can't do. FRBM Act, it has been passed. Central government never adhered to it but one single year. Even the current year, it is, they're saying 4.9. They're supposed to borrow only 3% here. But they're coming with hammer and tongs against the state government. You are trustworthy. Which state government? State governments as a whole has complied. In fact, state governments borrowing is less than 3%. Many state governments have internalized this FRBM Act so much that even the COVID time, money borrowed, Indian government allowed to borrow you higher amount, 5%. So many borrow. But then the principle of FRBM Act is you cannot spend borrowed money on revenue expenditure. Therefore, do you know what was done? They didn't spend. At the height of COVID, 3 lakh crores of rupees were lying in the treasuries of state government, and central government immediately takes them and puts them in, not central government, RBI takes them and puts into central government securities. People are happy, you get at least 3% lying in the treasury, you don't get anything. It is not that states are all borrowing left and right, and therefore it's the state, central government which is breaking the law. But they're trying to discipline the states. A major threat before the state government sees, FRBM Review Committee has said that state need to, their borrowing power should be reduced to 1.75%. See, they just don't see a role for the state in the development. Because central can then borrow more, to accommodate higher central borrowing, reduce the state borrowing. So what is going to be? It's going to be a big fight here. Constitution says state will have to take permission and conditions of sender if they are indebted to sender. Suppose Kerala says, we'll pay back whatever you have. Maybe some 5,000, 6,000 crores. I told you, from 1991, Center has stopped giving loans to states. But the center states indebted, they come out 1 lakh rupees for 50 years. So that you're indebted. So suppose Kerala takes the position. Well, we'll pay back. Then we'll go to the market. Anyway, you are standing for market economy. We'll accept the market discipline. not to your arbitrary decisions. A fight is going on the Supreme Court. So, they said, or you say, the high is hybrid, we will make our institution hybrid. Okay, we will see that toll is collected. Now, are you going to discriminate against us? So, this is the fight that's going on. That's why I said, it's not the center state differences, the confrontation is on the card. States like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, I don't know who else, a lot of them think similar. There will have to be a federal front to protect the rights of the state. Thank you very much.